for the new year. This is all what this is a teeing
Plus
up.
the people that had the most sellers were the ones that went to bold.
Really?
Yep.
Well, so here's what I'll just share one quick thing with you, and then we'll get into the content. Now, by the way, I'm going to be covering content right from your manual. So this is from step 7 itself. So if you've got your manual, maybe, or you don't, you may want to grab it, because it was a part of it that we weren't able to cover when we were together last week, and I want to make sure I do. So that's why we're doing this today. And by the way, I'm recording it too. So if you've got anybody that isn't able to join us today, you can let them know that we'll send an email out to you all with that link as soon as we're done. But I was in a conversation yesterday. So to your point, Leanna, about the people that were reporting to the market center that they were the ones that were taking listings. They were the folks in bold. It's interesting because this whole idea of seasonality is universal across almost everywhere in the world. And why I can share it with you is I had a conversation yesterday with a woman in South Africa who owns 3 market centers. She's the OP for 3. And she said the same thing to me. Now, here's what's interesting in South Africa. They're below the equator, so they are now in summer. In fact, their first official day of summer is coming up this next week. And so that, it's warming up, it's getting it's the start of the beach weather and all the rest of the stuff in Cape Town and that. And she said everybody does it, their numbers drop off in December every year too because of the holidays. So so I always think about it this way: it's not a seasonal thing, right? It's not about weather; it's about what the agents believe, right? So we think that buyers and sellers don't do much this time of year, and so that's why we step away or drop off, and that's why we see that happening. And so really the key part of this next few weeks, I think, is twofold. Number one, first and foremost, make sure you are spending time with family and enjoying and friends and enjoying the holidays, and reflect on your year, whatever you choose to do with this next 2.5 weeks. With that, though, what I really want to have you consider as well, and that is that you give thought and possibly spend some time in maybe some of the free time gearing yourself up mentally for a really strong start to 2022, and specifically to a strong start with seller listings. So what is it that you could do over this next 2.5 weeks to get yourself really set up to be successful with sellers in 2022? And that's really the conversation today. And I want to share with you a couple things. So that's where this is coming from. And I'm going to ask that you turn to it's page 151 in your manual. And then we're going to talk about online reviews. And then I'm going to talk about the promise itself. And these are both specific to sellers. And online reviews isn't specific to sellers, but the promise, the way I'll present it to you really is to really be solid with sellers. Now, that being said, a couple things. I know I referenced the NAR survey of home buyers and home sellers a lot during Bold. That new report is out, the 2021 report. And one of the good news items is that the average length of time in a house of sellers this past year is dropped, the biggest drop we've ever seen as far as length of time. For the last number of years, it's been 10 years. So a home buyer buys a house, the average home buyer stays in their house on average 10 years before they do something again. As real estate agents, is that a great thing that people buy a house and stay there forever? No, we need some churn going in the market, don't we? We need people buying and selling. That's essential to the market itself. And so when it crept up to 10 years, by the way, the lowest it was in the early 2000s. It dropped down to 6 years. And it stayed there for many years. So, if someone bought a house in 2001, the average home buyer stayed in that house for 6 years. So in 2007, they became a seller. And we had a really healthy market through that period of time until the recession hit us. And then, there's probably a number of scenarios at play as to why it grew to 10 years. But the biggest one was negative equity. Right? So if I bought my house at the peak of the market in 2006, 2007, I paid right at the very top, and then the market dropped. In many cases, it took 10 years for some of those homeowners to get back to a spot where they could sell and not have to bring cash to the closing table. So that's what started that trend. And that trend ran then until through last year, actually 10 years. Now it dropped to 8 years. So the average homeowner's in their home 8 years. which is this year, that's what we saw. And so the trend lines are going well. Now, that being said, though, what we also saw is that home sellers were very happy with you as a general statement for the agent they worked with. In fact, it was almost 90% approval rating, saying that they were satisfied or very satisfied with the agent they worked with, which is great too, by the way. That's a higher number than we've ever seen. And the other thing we've seen is that we've got sellers working with a higher percentage of agents than ever before. So what it's telling me is that they see your value. They liked what you did as far as when you delivered your value to them. And so then, and the fact that it's less time in their home is that the opportunity to help them again is going to come sooner than it would have even 3 years ago. As long as we're there, right? And we're there, and they know us and they remember us, and they can find us when the time is there, because only 29% of sellers last year worked with the agent they bought their home with 10 years ago. So we had 90% approval rating, like they satisfied, very satisfied, would work with you again, and 29% did. Well, what's it tell you? What do you think that is? Well, we didn't stay in touch, probably. Oh, two things, right? The agent was no longer in the business, so that's definitely one piece of that. But think about this, 90% to 29%, that's 61% gap of business out there that they would go back to the agent they had worked with if they knew who they were. So one of the ways that we can really build on that is this idea of staying present in the social media world. It's for new business development as much as it's for continuation of the relationships that you began. And so that's really what I wanted to talk about on page 151. And we talk about online reviews and referrals. Here's the thing that I shared those stats with you because they're very happy with you, right? When we get to closing and it settles, that consumer, that seller is really happy with you. And so the first question becomes, are you asking them for referral business? And when should you ask? So what do you guys think? So this is, take yourself off mute if you want. And when do you think you should ask for referral business, or who they might know during this whole process? At the beginning, the middle, the end, after the fact? Where do you think it should happen?
Throughout.
Who said that? Jessica? Yes, that's exactly right. Throughout the whole process. In fact, what the promise does is it says that if I do my job well during this whole time that we're working together, you're going to feel comfortable and confident to refer your friends, your relatives, or coworkers to me so we can do the same for them. So that's right in the first conversation. So if I'm doing a buyer consultation, and I'll say that with the buyers right then. So in the time of the consultation. And I'll also say this, and so is there anyone that you can think of right now that I should be reaching out to? So that's right at the beginning. We start, right? And then midway through, always be doing that. Now, one of the things where I think we make a big mistake is when we get to the accepted offer period, like that contract to close, that 30, 45, 60 days, for many agents, that's where we disappear, right? Because we get through the inspections, the contingencies, and then we don't touch base with them until the walkthrough has to get scheduled. That's the wrong time to disappear. Because there's kind of two key points in this whole process that I think you really want to be mindful of asking for referral business from the consumer. Number one is at the beginning, when you're starting the process, because that's when they're out there thinking the most, having the most conversations about buying real estate. So they're going to interact with more people who have the same interest, like attracts like. So at the very beginning, they've got people because they've been talking about buying a house. We're thinking about buying a house, so we just went and got pre-approved, and now we can go buy a house. That's what their conversations are. And then once they got that accepted offer, the same thing happens. In fact, in the market of the moment where it's so competitive, they all say, we bought a house when they get that accepted offer, won't they? And they'll post it on social media. They'll put it out to their friends and talk to their family members. It's house, 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 house. And that's typically when we're not very present. So online reviews are crucial during this time, because when you ask for referral business early and often, then the backup to that is that people, when they have a great experience with you, they're posting it somewhere that someone else might find it or can direct someone to. Now, during the listing consultation, I'll do that. I'll say, Mr. Seller, one of the things that we really pride ourselves in So when we do our jobs really well for you and we get to that closing table and we're done and you say that was easy, thank you. That's my goal, right? When we do that, what I'd love for you to do is if you could just spend a few minutes and go out on Yelp and post a review that says just that for us. Because we rely on that for others to just feel comfortable and confident enough so that they'll hire us as well. And it helps us grow our business. Now, one of the things I'll just tell you is that I recommend you choose one or two vehicles to become prominent in for online reviews, because it's vast where they could go, isn't it? It could be Zillow, it could be Yelp, it could be Google, it could be all the home finding sites out there that are trying to capture leads for and sell them to us, all of that stuff. The two I like are Google and Yelp. Now, why? Anyone know? Any thoughts? Guesses?
Google is a spot where everybody kind of searches for and may find you anyway. So
yeah, I mean, it's the number one used search engine, right? Who remembers? What was the very first search engine that was out there? Because I can't remember the name of it, but it was made a young guy from Wisconsin a millionaire when it happened. It was the early 1990s anyway, but I can't even remember what it was because now we all just Google it, right? Ask Jeeves. You go use Ask Jeeves? Some of you might, but most of us Google, right? So Google review is a great place. The other one is Yelp, and Yelp because Yelp is owned by whom? ABC. ABC is whom? Google. So all things kind of search back to there. Now, I'm not saying that that's the be all and end all. What I'm going to suggest is you choose one or two that you make a goal of really getting dominant in. And if you do a Yelp review right now, or you do a search on Yelp for great best real estate agent in ... your market, you get a sense of what is out there. There's not very much that's been done there. I think early on, most people thought Yelp was really for restaurant reviews and bad service in restaurants, that kind of stuff. And what we've discovered though is that it can be more than that, and that more and more people are going there. The one I'll tell you that I'm not a huge fan of, and this is just my personal opinion, is Zillow. Now, why would I tell you not to go have your consumer post the reviews to Zillow? Any ideas?
They're a competitor.
Yeah, they're a direct competitor now. Absolutely right. They're in the real estate brokerage business. So to me, that would be like saying, hey, if we do our jobs well, and you feel really confident that you'd love to have your friends and family have us help them as well, do me a favor, and if you could post on the review for me, and they go to Zillow, it'd be like asking them to post it on Shore West's site for me, or First Weber, or Century 21, or Remax. We wouldn't even think of that. You'd go like, why would I do that? Well, now Zillow is a broker, and they're coming into our markets and they're competing directly. So why would we give them more? And really what's made Zillow so powerful is they've got so much information. So if you have your sellers and buyers post reviews to that site, you're just giving them more information, which helps them get stronger. So just my personal opinion. Does anyone else have an online site for reviews that you've utilized that you find helpful? Because I know that there's lots of options. I just wanted to see if there's any others that you would want to share.
I use realtor.com.
Yeah, realtor.com, absolutely. And that's when yes. Now that's owned by News Corp, not a competitor, right? So that's a friendlier place than going to Zillow. What else was there? I saw someone, was it Sarah?
Yep, I was just going to add that we did a big push to increase our Google reviews because they're of Google lead services, which is something we're looking into now. And you need a minimum of 100 Google reviews in order to even be eligible. So we did a contest on our team to see how many reviews we could get submitted that put us over the mark. So now we're a verified provider through Google.
And Google just gets better at this and so that's kind of where if you're going to bet on a horse, I think that's a good horse to bet on, right? Because they're not going to be gone tomorrow. They're not going to be sold somewhere, and they're getting much better at that. So I love that you share that with us. Now, by the way, you just touched on the next thing. So the first thing about online reviews and referrals is ask for those multiple times through the transaction. And then, choose one or two review sites you'd like them to post to, because you'll find, and I think, Sarah, you can probably back me up with this, you're going to have to kind of herd them there. they don't, I mean, we're all busy people, right? And so someone has a great experience with you, they're going to go, yeah, I'll post it on their review. And you go, great. So let me know when it's posted. And then you never hear from them again. You go out and you look and they never done it. Well, they're busy, right? So it's not their fault because I know I've made the promises I'll go post a review and I forget to. Now, the one time they don't forget to post reviews is when they're going to post something negative, right? Because they make sure they go do that. So we got to coax them with that. And so I've got a little bit of well, basically it's just a 4-step process that will help us, I think, be more mindful of it, and in doing so then help us get more of these. So the first one is start the process at the pre-listing stage, right? So asking for reviews, a good review and a referral. An example could be, include written testimonials right in your pre-listing packet or your listing presentation and direct the client to your website or social media to see the online reviews. So start getting them there from the beginning. Say, hey, maybe they set up the appointment with you. You've done your pre-qualification questionnaire that I sent out to you a couple weeks ago, and you say, before we meet, if you want to get to know a little bit more about what we can do for you, if you go to this website and read our reviews, we're pretty proud about the work we do for the folks that hire us. And then they get to see it. So then you start to plant the seed that that's one of the things you're expecting they might do when you're successful with them. Bring up reviews at the listing presentation as you lay out the exceptional experience they can expect from you. So you bring it right in. And then ask if they're completely overjoyed with the service that you provide. If they're completely overjoyed, then you're going to ask this, that they'll give you an online review and a testimonial for your pre-listing packet. Remember, we talked about those and said the best testimonials are the people that let you post their full names and a contact, email and phone number. And then what we do with ours, once a year, we make phone calls to everybody on that list and we thank them and ask them if we can keep them there for another year. So it's another really powerful touch. And so that's really where that becomes helpful with that. And remind them how important reviews are and really how referrals are for your business. And then that you really are going to go to work and earn the right to have them do that for you. So again, we're setting it up from the beginning that I don't take this for granted. If I do my job correctly, though, and I really overjoy you, wow you, you're really pleased, will you help me this way? And then ask again at the closing, right? So at the closing, ask again if they would post a review for you. And then if no review comes through, and by the way, this is more times than not, this is what will happen, after a month, reach out to them. So again, just another touch, provide feedback, ask them to provide feedback on the experience. So just say, hey, we'll just our routine, we reach back out, ask them about the experience, and then see if there's a better way you might have been able to get them to post a review for you. And more times than not, they'll say, oh, geez, I just forgot. Think about this. If it's a seller or a buyer, they just had their living space, completely changed and packed up and moved. So, I get it, but it's important that we strike while the iron's hot in getting the review, because that's when they'll have the most to say for you. Now, with that, I'm going to give you one more piece. But before we do that, let's just take a look at the bottom of the page. We've got our conversation, kind of a dialogue for you. It says, referral conversations are a great way to expand your business. For this conversation, think of the referral in 2 ways: referrals for clients and referrals for your market center, meaning other agents people that might be thinking about becoming agents. One of the best potential agent opportunities I always found was people who were for sale by owners. If I listed a for sale by owner, they already think they're in the real estate business, aren't they? Because they were FSBO. So they already have an idea that they could do this. And so I always ask a FSBO at the end if they've ever thought about a career in real estate. And about 10% of the time they will do it. And now I'm building my downline as well as helping them maybe find something to be huge for them. Jokingly, when I first meet a FSBO, I'll say, hey, you and I are in the same business, aren't we? And like, what? I go, well, you're in the business of selling real estate, and so am I. You've got to sell your house, and that's what I help people do too. Huh. And they never think about it that way. So that's the first thing about that. Now, a couple conversation starters just there for you. Did I treat you the way that you would intend your family, friends, and coworkers to be treated if they were buying or selling real estate? Great question, right? So did I treat you the way that you expect? And then what family, friends, or coworkers can I help the way that we helped you? That would be the greatest gift you could give us as the service that we could then provide to them that we provided to you. Now that's setting up the beginning of the conversation about the gift. That's really what this is. And it says, Another one is this one. I know what you most likely know 7 people who will buy or sell this year. By the way, that's an NAR statistic. The average adult in the United States on an annual basis throughout the course of the year knows 7 others who have a real estate need during the course of that year. I'm going to let that sink in for a moment. So 7 people, 1 person knows 7. So if I only have a 50% conversion on that, that's 3 potential at-bats for something that I can help somebody with for every person I help this year. So if I help 10 people close on real estate this year, that's 30, isn't it? That potential leads that I could get. I'm only using 50% as conversion. Fast way to build business. Last thing on that one is that people know people like them. So if they're awesome people and you really enjoyed them, chances are everyone they'll send you will be just like that. Conversely, if they're jerks, they push you, they have no respective boundaries, they demand everything from you all the time, and at the end, they're not going to give you a good review. They tend to know people like that as well. So the idea is, who do I want to build this with, right? One of the great affirmations I heard from someone years ago was that they started the year saying, I only work with great people who appreciate what I do, and we love spending time together. What would life look like if that's how every day you started with that, and you wake up every morning knowing that that's who you're going to interact with? That's the beginning then of this conversation. So my goal from the very beginning is to say, if I do my job well, there's 2 things that we would hope to be able to get from you at the end, and that is great online review, and then that you refer us to anyone you may know. So with that, then let's go to the next page. So we'll go to page 152. I think is that the next page? Yeah, we were on 151. Let's take a look at the promise. Now, the little backstory on this. This conversation we first heard of, I think it was in 2018, if I remember correctly, from an agent named Mike Hicks. And Mike is in Idaho. He's in not Boise. Let's see, another one of the few other big cities there in Idaho, but he's Idaho Falls. And in Idaho Falls, Mike Hicks, who was and I'll tell you, he's a really unassuming guy, probably in his late 50s, maybe early 60s, shock white hair, a white bushy mustache, very low key in his speaking. When Gary interviewed him at Mega Camp that year from the stage, I think he had said that he had 27% market share in Idaho Falls. Now think about this. That meant that every one of every 4 for sale signs had his name on it. And that's a pretty large city. So could you imagine what your world looks like if one of every 4 sellers in your market area was with you? And again, I talk about him being very unassuming because there's nothing spectacular about how he's done this. And not to take away from him, because it's spectacular what his results are. But it's really built on this thing called a promise. And so that's when we first heard it. And it's a promise he makes to the seller at the time of the listing consultation. Well, from that conversation from the stage, Mega agent down in Tampa, Florida, Tony Baroni, grabbed a hold of it and turned it into a system. So that every time he goes out on a listing consultation, it's all part of it. And they kind of blew it up so that it's doing huge numbers for them and he and his team in Tampa. But on your page, here it is. It just kind of lays it out for you, right? So when pre-qualifying prior to a listing appointment or confirming the appointment or while setting at a buyer appointment, you'll say this: when we meet, I'm going to share my promise with my clients. And it starts with providing the most amazing real estate experiences that you could ever imagine. Would that be okay? Now let's think about that, what he just said. If I can give you the most amazing real estate experience you've ever had, would that be okay? Now, would that be okay? What is that an example of? It's something we covered in Bold 2 weeks ago. It's a tie down, isn't it? Right? Statement of fact, tie it down. Would that be okay? By the way, it's a really powerful one, because how do you answer that in anything other than, well, of course that'd be okay, right? You're going to go, no, I don't want an amazing experience. But the key to this is the way this is laid out, and that's what I want to point it out, is you do that with that tie down. So they say, well, of course, yeah, that'd be fine by us. We'd love an amazing experience. Then you go on and say, great, I'll share more with you about that when we meet. So again, this is just the teaser. This is what I'm doing, the pre-qual or scheduling the appointment. Now, the next step though is when I get there. And so I send my pre-listing packet out, which we gave you an example of that, 2 examples actually a couple weeks ago in that shared Google Drive. And then at the appointment, we're going to say this. Well, thanks so much for inviting me here tonight or today or this afternoon. I know there are thousands of real estate agents in our area, and I don't take for granted that I am here. And one little technique from neurolinguistic programming and the language of sales, of course, we talked about. When I say I'm here, I touch the tabletop. You can't really see it because I'm here. Now, again, the secret to that is that's an anchor. It's an anchor. Visually, and there's a sound that it creates that just anchors me to that table, wherever I am across from with that seller. So there's a key piece to this. So I am here. Now, I go on to say this. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Always come from appreciation. And then you go on to say, did you have a chance to read or skim the packet of information I sent over? That's that pre-listing packet. Now, again, more times than not, they're going to say no. Don't stop sending it. The key is that you sent it because it's part of this system. And whatever they say, that's fine. And you say, most say they'll probably just say, well, we skimmed it over. Great. The first thing I'd like to go over then is, as we get started, is this thing called our promise. So I'm gonna have it printed with me, even though I sent it out in that pre-listing packet. And I'm gonna say, would that be okay if I share it with you, even though it's been in the packet and you can be able to see it later? And they'll say, yeah, of course. And so, let me share with you what the promise is. So to me, it means that I am going to provide you with the most amazing and incredible real estate experience that you could ever imagine. That's my goal. And if I'm able to do that, I'd like to ask for 2 things from you. Would that be okay? Now, again, I've already asked once before if I could share that promise with them. They said yes. Now I've said, if I do this, I'm going to ask 2 things from you. Would that be okay? They're going to say what? Yeah, I guess, yeah, absolutely. So you'll smile and let them answer, right? Just let them talk. And when they say yes, just continue. Again, is in a warm voice, like it says there. Say, so the first thing is that I've done such an incredible job that at some point between today and our closing date, you will send me a referral. That's the first one. And that my service is so awesome that you'll feel compelled to tell your family, your friends, coworkers, and your neighbors about me, so that if they need a referral for service providers, if they're looking for anything like maybe refinancing their home or looking to buy or sell or build wealth through investment real estate, that it's absolutely my goal to earn that right to have you refer them to me. And I intended to earn that in this time. So that's my first goal. If I fulfill this promise to you, would you be comfortable referring people to me? And then you let them respond. Now, again, remember this is at the very first kind of meeting at the listing consultation. And whatever they say, go, thank you so much. Now, the second thing, remember there were 2 parts to this, is I won't know how I did without your valuable feedback. So the way I do that is through, we just call them online reviews. And I'd love for you to do this at the end of our transaction. You see, my question is this: if I fulfill my promise to you, would you write a review for me? And they'll say, yeah, you do all that for us? Of course, Darren, we will say it would absolutely mean the world to me, as the greatest gift that I can receive from anyone is a 5-star review. Now, this is how I measure how I'm doing, by the way. So can I share with you, though, and I just get their feedback, right? So right there, what are the 2 things? Number 1, I do such an amazing job. They have such an incredible experience that they're willing to refer people to me between now and the end of the transaction. Remember, before closing, that they do that. We said that. And that the best way for me to know how I'm doing is by getting great online reviews. And so could you post an online review for me? And they have agreed. And so then you finish it with this. You say, can I share with you what the promise is not? And they'll go, yeah, of course, Darren. And so, well, it's not a promise that everything will go perfectly. Underline that piece right there. That piece of this dialogue is such an important piece. So it's not a guarantee that everything's going to go perfect. I can't promise that. See, things can and sometimes do happen. What I can promise, though, is that I am your partner, and I'm going to help you navigate through any obstacles that we may have as they occur. Is that fair enough? And what are they going to say? Of course, dear. Now, by the way, in this, you can see Tony Brody and Mike Hicks get credit for this. That's who we got this from. Mike, 26% market share. Very unassuming guy, not salesperson. This is just his conversation with a potential seller. And he's saying, here's what I'm going to ask from you. And if I do that, here's what I'm going to ask for in return. And they'll agree to it. And you'll start seeing your opportunity for, first off, for online reviews grows. And what it typically takes is a little extra effort at the end from you just to reach back out and make sure it got posted. Now, the thing it does do, though, is it gives you great opportunities throughout the whole transaction to ask for referrals. So touch points for that. So right at the listed consultation, you could say, you know, now that we're here, I'm going to have room in my schedule for a few other great sellers like you. I'm wondering if there's anyone that you've run into over the last couple of weeks that's talked about selling when they knew you were, that you could refer to me. So that's the first one. Second touch point in my mind is at the time that there's an accepted offer, in that same dialogue, that same moment when we're across the table from each other, they accepted their offer, I would bring the promise up again and say, hey, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is that we really nailed it, 1 is that we really didn't. At this moment, where would you rate us? And they go 10. I said, awesome. You know, thank you so much, by the way. I don't take that lightly. Now, here's what I'm going to ask. Who have you come across in the past week or two that has talked about having a real estate need that I could help? See, now, is that a salesperson pushy ask for referral business? I don't think so at all. And it works just wonderfully. And so that's the other. And then the other thing is from contract to close. Now, let me give you a little bonus thought on contract to close. I mentioned earlier that that's where most of us disappear. That's where most of us should be very prevalent. Contract to close. Here's the system I would recommend. Set up a system for you, your business, that once a week, some specified time, you've got set aside to call all your buyers that are under contract. Excuse me, that are in that contract to close period, right? So it doesn't matter when it is, as long as it's the same day of the week, the same time of that day every week. Just the system. So let's say it's ours is Tuesday afternoons from 1:30 to 2:30. Now, why is it Tuesday afternoons? Well, I mentioned at one point when we were together that I have everybody pre-approved through my lender, Dave, whether they work for a bank or not. Everyone we work with gets pre-approved. And so Dave's team on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock gives us an update of where all the files stand. So when we get on the phone with the sellers or buyers, if that's who I'm representing, I can talk coherently about where they're at. And sometimes that could be a help on something that might be holding up the commitment letter. For example, the buyer, it could be a authorization of employment. It could be, you know, something like that where I could get to the right place and get it done for them. So that's the first thing that we want to always think about in that is that. And so when I do this, set up this call, so I do this, my sellers, we stay on the same schedule with my sellers as we did all the way along. Sellers always get called Friday afternoons between 4 and 6, even during contract to close. Buyers, though, get the same thing from contract to close Tuesdays from 1:30 to 2:30. And when I call every buyer between 2:30 and 2:30, we do an update on what's happening with the steps along the way, right? The contingencies and conditions and whatever we have to do. There's sometimes, many times, just a very fast call. But then I'll say at the end now, if we're on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being, you know, you're doing incredible with what you're giving us service-wise, 1 being you should just quit. Where would you rate us today? And if they give me a 10, I'll say, so now that, by the way, don't take it lightly, thank you so much for that. Who do you know that we could give the same experience to right now? And sometimes you can even set up and say, you know, every time we talk on Tuesdays, I'm going to ask you who you might know that would be potential for us. So just be ready for that. And they'll come with names after a while if they show up without them for a while because they feel guilty in a way because you've asked, they've agreed, and they're not giving you anything. So that's the other piece of it. So we've been experimenting with this idea of asking for that from contract to close, rating them on a scale of 1 to 10. Contract to close asking for referral. We're averaging 2 referrals during that time per client. So let me say it again, 2 referrals per client. So if I have, for every buyer under contract that's in that contract to close period, if I'm averaging 2 additional referrals out of that group, is that a lot of hard work or is that just smart work? What do you guys think? Smart work, isn't it? Now, the key is I set it up in advance, right? It's part of my system. It's part of my system. And that's really how this becomes such a powerful piece. Utilize it. Tell them that, in Tony's script, he said that if I do this and I wow you with such great service, you will give us the names of, you give me a name before closing. And so if I get the contract to close, they haven't gotten a referral from them, I could say, hey, I don't know if you remember, we talked about this way back at the beginning, that if I was wowing you with the service I provide, you would be comfortable giving me some referral business, some other folks I can help. I haven't received any of those from you. I'm just wondering, did I do something wrong or is there something I could do to get contacted? And all of a sudden, you're going to start seeing your opportunities go up. The last thing on just that contract to close conversation, I do set it up by saying, if I do my job right, by the way, if I'm a team and I have admin that do that, I would train them to say, hey, one of the things we get kind of rated on and how well we do in this business is by the number of referrals we're able to generate from this time frame in the process working with you. If you've got an admin team, that's a great thing to coach them on and train them on because they can do it. And you can set up a bonus system based on how many they get and see what happens. This is working smarter, not harder. And that's really what the promise is and online reviews really are. It's just a leverage tool for us to get to really gain market share by being more present in all the places we are. So with that, that's what I wanted to share with you today. I've got time though. If there's any questions or specifics that you want to cover, I'm happy to do that with you. Just have to unmute yourself or hit the hand raise button if you want. It's up to you. It's not a big group, so we don't have to be too formal.
I just think it's really powerful to continue to ask for a review when you have the opportunity to make something better.
Yeah.
When you wait until the end of the transaction, you have no opportunity to right the ship. So
Yeah.
what's the point of asking? And lots of times there's unseated, maybe resentment or issues brewing that you, for some reason, haven't uncovered along the way. And it's just more earnest, I think.
Well, and your choice of words is really interesting because I agree with you. And that's one thing that made this, I think, makes it so powerful is you can't fake this one, I guess, right? So to say, I don't really care about this stuff, but I'm told I should do it. Then if that's where you're coming from, don't do this because you'll be able to spot that and the consumer will a million miles away. So but it's for most of us, it's a really cool conversation because it's what most of us start each day, ideally working to do, right? It's like, I want to leave this place better. I want to have a positive impact on the buyers and sellers that I work with. That's what I'm up to. Now, I may not say it like that, but that's really what, I don't think any of us wake up any morning going, I wonder whose lives I could make difficult today. We just don't. And so, and like attracts like. So again, it just brings more of the good stuff to you. So yeah, good takeaways. Anything else? Well, I'm going to give you 2 minutes back. I think we said this would be 45 now. One thing I would tell you, if there's any questions whatsoever, anything else, so from what we've covered, you could ask those right now too. I'm happy to touch on any of that. I will show you what, if you can just indulge me for a moment. I want to share one thing with you because I'm excited about some of this data and I haven't had a chance to deep dive into it. When I do though, I'm gonna, let's see if I can get this to work. This is just some of that stuff from the home buyers and home sellers, the survey of home buyers and home sellers. I'm gonna see if I can make it. I'm working from one computer only today on Zoom, so let's see, that's the cut. Okay, let's see if this will do it. I think it does. All right. You're not seeing the pretty view there, but you're seeing a view of home buyers and home sellers. You just had a pop-up come up, right? Is that what's on your screen? Yeah, okay, good. So this is what I wanted to share with you all is this. They asked sellers last year what their satisfaction with the process was. And I think, I know I just lost for you, but I wanted to move this up so I can really get a better look at it for you guys. There we go. So sellers last year, 70% of them were very satisfied, 22% were somewhat. But that's somewhat satisfied is still a pretty good, I think is a good thing to look at. So that's what, 92%, right? So we have like a 92% approval rating. I mean, if we were in politics, we would even look at the somewhat dissatisfied and add them in and go, we have a 98% approval rating. But dissatisfied isn't a word that I really enjoy. So, we went 92%. Now, that's kind of cool because it tells us that we're doing a pretty good job. In fact, the other thing that we can be confident in is that the number of consumers that worked with us is on the increase as a percentage of the whole. So they do find value in what we do, which I think is interesting because of the onset of the internet. The whole conversation was we were going to become obsolete, and we're not. So that's the first, but then here's the piece of this that I just wanted to, the promise becomes such a powerful piece, tool around. And that is they asked those sellers how they found the agent they worked with. And 39% asked for a referral from someone they trust. And then 29% had worked with you, the agent before. So that's 68%. Now, I'm going to slide this away just so you can see what's behind there. The rest of the numbers drop off to nothing, right? 4% were personally contacted by the agent they hired. So it was a cold call. But that's the highest number next to that. Nothing else really matters in my mind around how to really build an incredibly solid business than to master those two things, right? Get referrals, get them to refer people to you because then they like, know, and trust you, and then just stay in touch with them. The average length of time the home is going down now, so that's helpful too because that's going to be less time in between. And here's the other part of that. They asked the agents the sellers how many people they interviewed. 82% of sellers only interviewed one agent last year. 82%. Well, I looked at that and go, wow, there's a lot of really trusted people out there. But what makes sense if I go back to this slide and said they were referred or they'd used you before, being 68, it's no coincidence those numbers are that close. Yeah, there's no coincidence. See, if you're referred to them by someone they trust, they're not going to interview another agent. They're just going to meet with you. So the game is in that piece right there, is to be in that spot. Now, the other one I want to show you, 89% of home sellers last year said that they would definitely or probably use the agent they worked with again. 89% said that. But remember, when we asked who they worked with, 29% had worked with them before. But 89% said they would. That's a 60% gap. There's opportunity with that. And I think that's the other piece. That's where the promise sets us up so wonderfully. And then the final one is this. This is if none of that excited you at all, this might be the one. And that is they asked, how many times did you refer that listing agent to other people? And 31% didn't refer the agent at all. Now, I would guess that number could be lower if the agents all asked for it and told people how they could help them build their business. We assume they know, and they don't. Now, 15% referred the agent once, 16% 2 times, 11% were 3 times, a whopping 27%, or the biggest percentage of all of these, was 4 or more times that they referred their agents to other people. So let's think about this. 27% of the time they referred the agent to other people who had real estate needs. 29% of sellers worked with us before. 68% of buyers and sellers would only choose us, either worked with us or referred to us. What do you think the name of the game is in all of this? What's the piece of the puzzle that you just have to master? What do you guys think? I think it's staying in touch. It's just continuing to build on relationship, isn't it? That's it. That's it. I mean, right there, that's the game. That's game over. Mike Hicks has 26% market share. He's mastering it in Idaho Falls. Tony Baroni's getting there too down in Tampa. That could be you. Now, you may not have a goal of that percentage market share. You might say it's X number of deals per year, and then that's fine too. But this is the easy path to it. It's just do great work. Ask them how they can pay you back. That's really for that referral opportunity from the promise. So any questions? Now I promise that's it, but I had just gotten those slides and there's such a great story in there about opportunity for us. Lastly, and just utilizing command. If you're not doing that, you owe it to yourself. If maybe you looked at it 3 years ago when it got launched and it sucked, and it did, it's a different game today. And then get Command Mobile downloaded, because it'll win you over if that hasn't. So that's my last shameless plug. And I don't get anything for saying any of that stuff. It's just, I know it's going to help you do more business should you choose. So with that, if there aren't any questions, I forgot to look at the chat box, but I don't see anybody there either. So I'm going to say a big thank you for hanging out with me today, first off. Secondly, thank you for being in Bold through this last 2 months. This is the time that's been kind of a weird time, with all the uncertainty around COVID. Yet the thing we are certain about is people are still buying and selling real estate. I mean, what a blessing that's been for all of us, that we get that opportunity just to help people. And the fact that you're out there every day investing in yourself by doing what we're learning in Bold just says a lot about who you are. And so I just want to say a big thank you. I look forward to hearing the results of what, because you guys some of you aren't hitting momentum yet. You will the next few weeks. It'll be fun to hear some of the stuff that's going on. And then seeing you, one of the things I failed to mention, and that is that you're in my world now because you've done a course with me. So if there's anything, anytime that comes up for you that I can help you with, don't hesitate to reach out. There's no obligation. I'm here to help you. That's my commitment to everybody. And we'll go from there. Oh, thank you, Dawn. Dawn just put my email in the chat box if you don't have it. All the best through the holidays. Look forward to spending time with friends and family. Be safe and mindful. And then 2022 is here, right? So the actions you take today are going to be February results. So choose wisely. We shall see you guys. Thanks so much. And Merry Christmas and all the best. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Darren.
My pleasure.